the 8th of October 1943, high above the Netherlands. The air is thin, freezing, and full of screaming metal. The 8th Air Force is bleeding. Every second up here is a gamble between life and death. In the cockpit of a P-47 Thunderbolt, you expect to see a disciplined machine of a man. Instead, you see something stupid. A pilot wearing a bright blue football jersey, number 78, and on his lap, inside a pressurized cockpit, is a dog, a real dog named Duke. The experts called him crazy. The commanders mocked him. They wanted him banned from flying. They said a farm boy who refused to follow formation was useless to the war effort. They said his tiny brain would get everyone killed, but the experts were wrong. This undisciplined clown didn't die. Instead, he destroyed 30 Nazi aircraft, 15 inches the air, and 15 on the ground in just 9 months. How did a useless farm boy, armed with nothing but a football jersey, a dog, and a reckless disregard for the rules, defeat the $1 million Luftwaffe war machine when the entire system said he wouldn't last a week? To understand why Ralph Hofer was a problem, you first have to understand why the Allies were dying. In 1943, the 8th Air Force wasn't just losing, they were bleeding out. A 70% casualty rate. Statistically, if you climbed into a cockpit, you were already a ghost. But the real killer wasn't just the German Messerschmitts. It was the textbook. The military doctrine was obsessed with formation, fly tight, stay together, safety in numbers. It sounded perfect in a briefing room. But up in the freezing air, it was a death sentence. The rigid formation turned agile fighter planes into slow, predictable targets. It forced pilots to fly straight and level, while the Luftwaffe wolves picked them off one by one. The system prioritized discipline over survival. Into this meat grinder steps Ralph "Kid" Hofer. He wasn't an officer molded by a prestigious academy. He was a farm boy from Salem, Missouri. He grew up with no electricity, no running water, and no patience for theory. He was a boxer, a semi-pro football player. He didn't possess book smarts. He possessed predatory instinct. He knew that in a street fight, you don't stand in a neat line waiting to be hit. You move, you strike, you fight dirty. Hofer looked at the formation, and he didn't see safety. He saw a cage, and he was about to break the bars. The P-47 Thunderbolt vibrates like a jackhammer against Ralph Hofer's spine, 25,000 feet. The cold is a physical weight, pressing against his chest, freezing the sweat inside his leather gloves. To his left, a B-17 bomber formation lumbers through the sky, slow, heavy cows waiting for the slaughter. Hofer is flying escort. The rulebook is absolute. Stick to the bomber, maintain formation, do not pursue. Then the wolves arrive. 3 German Fokker-Wulf, 190 seconds drop from the sun. They don't fly in a polite line. They swarm. They slash. Hofer watches his wingman, a kid from Ohio who followed every rule. Check his position. The kid is perfectly in formation. He is doing exactly what he was told. And that makes him a sitting duck. A stream of German 20mm cannon shells tears through the Ohio kid's fuselage. There is no cinematic explosion, just a sickening thud of metal on metal, a spray of oil against Hofer's canopy, and then silence. The radio goes dead. The plane simply peels away, trailing black smoke, falling into the white clouds below like a stone dropped in a pond. Hofer's hand twitches on the stick. His boxing instincts scream at him, "Move! Counterpunch! Go after them!" But the flight commander's voice crackles in his ear, cold and metallic. "Stay in position, Blue 4. Close the gap. Do not break formation. They are watching their friends die, and they are ordered to hold the line." Back at RAF Debden, the silence of the airfield is heavier than the noise of battle. The smell of high-octane fuel mixes with the smell of wet English grass. Hofer storms into the debriefing room. He is still wearing that ridiculous blue football jersey, number 78. It's stained with oil. "We're sitting ducks up there." Hofer slams his helmet onto the table. "You don't win a boxing match by letting the other guy punch you in the face while you stand still. We need to go down. We need to hunt them before they climb." The room goes quiet. A major, a man with perfect posture and a clean uniform that has never seen a drop of oil, looks at Hofer with pure disdain. He looks at the long hair, the dog waiting by the door, the lack of discipline. "Lieutenant Hofer," the major says, his voice dripping with condescension. "This is the United States Army Air Force, not a back-alley brawl in Missouri. We fly by doctrine. We fly by discipline. Your instincts are reckless. They are dangerous." Hofer tries to argue. He talks about energy management, about catching the Germans on the deck where they are vulnerable. The major cuts him off. "You are a liability, Hofer. You're undisciplined. You're a clown. If you break formation one more time, I will ground you permanently. I will put you behind a desk until this war is over." To teach him a lesson, they assign Hofer to the coffin corner, the number 4 spot in the formation. It is the most vulnerable position, the position where you are supposed to be the eyes for the leader, the first one to die when the enemy attacks from behind. It is a leash, a muzzle. That night, Hofer sits in his bunk. He polishes the gold snake ring on his finger. He looks at Duke, his dog, sleeping soundly. He thinks about the kid from Ohio falling into the clouds. He thinks about the standard procedure that is filling graves back home. Fear tightens his stomach. If he disobeys, his career is over. He will be disgraced. But if he obeys, he dies. It's that simple. The system wants a soldier. But the war needs a predator. Hofer makes a decision. It's a quiet, terrifying resolve. Tomorrow, he isn't going to fly for the major. He isn't going to fly for the manual. He's going to wait for the Germans. And the moment he sees a black cross on a grey wing, he is going to cut the leash. The 8th of October, 1943, 0900 hours. The tarmac at RAF Debden is cold and wet, while the other pilots are meticulously checking their flight charts, synchronizing their watches, and saluting officers. Ralph Hofer is doing something different. He isn't reviewing the standard operating procedure. He is smuggling a 40-pound dog onto a fighter plane. He lifts Duke up onto the wing. The dog's claws click against the aluminum skin of the P-47. It's absurd. It's a violation of every safety protocol in the book. A dog in a combat zone? In a pressurized cockpit? It's madness. Hofer climbs in. He isn't wearing the standard issue flight suit. He's wearing that blue football jersey. Number 78. It offers zero protection against fire, zero protection against the freezing cold at 30,000 feet. It is essentially a piece of cloth, a piece of trash compared to the armored suits of his peers. He settles into the seat. The cockpit smells of high-octane fuel, stale sweat, and wet dog fur. He flips the switches. The massive Pratt & Whitney engine coughs, then roars to life. The vibration shakes his teeth. It shakes the dog. But Hofer doesn't feel fear. He feels the rhythm. To him, this isn't a machine. It's a glove. And he's about to step into the ring. Takeoff. The formation assembles. For the first hour, it's a test of patience. The radio chatter is strict, robotic. Blue leader to blue flight. Tighten up. Watch your spacing. Hofer sits in the coffin corner. He feels the claustrophobia of the formation. It feels like a straitjacket. He looks left. He looks right. His wingmen are flying like robots. They are staring at their instruments. They are staring at the leader. They aren't looking at the enemy. Hofer's eyes scan the ground. The textbook says, "Stay high. Altitude is advantage." But Hofer's street instinct whispers something else. The enemy expects you high. They won't look down. He begins his mental experiment. He imagines what would happen if he cut the throttle, if he dropped like a stone, if he hit them from the tree line. It's a theory that goes against everything he was taught in flight school. If he tries it and fails, he crashes. If he tries it and survives, he's court-martialed for deserting the formation. Suddenly, a flash of movement. Below them, way below, against the green patchwork of the Dutch countryside, a shadow moving fast. Hofer squints. His heart hammers against his ribs. It's a Messerschmitt Bf 109, The German pilot is flying low, hugging the deck, thinking he is invisible to the high-flying American formation. The German is hunting stragglers. He is a shark in shallow water. The correct military response is to radio the sighting, wait for orders, and likely let the target go because breaking formation for a single plane is inefficient. Hofer looks at his radio. He looks at the formation leader flying straight and level, oblivious to the danger below. If I stay here, that German lives to kill another day. If I stay here, I am safe, but I am useless. The friction of the moment is unbearable. The voice of authority in his head is screaming, "Don't do it." The voice of the predator is screaming, "Kill him." The German plane banks left, preparing to disappear into a cloud bank. Time runs out. Hofer doesn't radio. He doesn't ask for permission. He jams the stick forward. He slams the throttle. Gravity inverts. His stomach drops. Duke the dog slides against the canopy. The P-47, a 7-ton beast of metal, screams as it is forced into a violent, unauthorized dive. He has crossed the line. There is no going back. The laws of physics say a 7-ton P-47 Thunderbolt shouldn't move like a ballerina. It should fall like a brick. And right now, Ralph Hofer is banking on that brick falling faster than anything else in the sky. He pushes the nose down. The world outside the canopy blurs into a vertical streak of green and grey. Gravity grabs him by the throat. The altimeter spins like a broken clock. 15,000 feet. 10,000 feet. 5,000. The airframe groans under the stress. It sounds like the metal is screaming in pain. The blood rushes from Hofer's head to his feet. His vision starts to tunnel. Grey edges creeping in. Duke, the dog, is pressed flat against the floorboards by the G-force. If I pull up too late, we are a crater. If I pull up too early, the German sees me. Down below, the German pilot in the Bf-109 is relaxed. He is flying on the deck, scanning the horizon, confident that the Americans are miles above, trapped in their rigid formations. He doesn't look up. Why would he? Lightning doesn't strike from a clear sky. Hofer levels out at treetop height. He is moving so fast the ground creates a shockwave. He is 300 yards behind the Nazi. 200 yards. He doesn't use the gun sight. He feels the distance. Now, he squeezes the trigger. 8. 50 caliber heavy machine guns open up simultaneously. The sound isn't a rat-a-tat-tat. It is a continuous, tearing roar, like canvas being ripped by a giant. The recoil slows the massive plane in mid-air. The impact is catastrophic. The German plane doesn't just catch fire, it evaporates. 1 second, it is a precision machine of war. The next, it is a cloud of aluminum confetti and black oil. The pilot never even had time to turn his head. He was dead before he knew he was under attack. Hofer zooms past the fireball. He grabs the radio mic. The squadron expects a frantic call for help or a scream of terror. Instead, they hear a calm southern drawl. "Gee, ain't the Alps pretty today?" Silence on the comms. Back at RAF Debden, the mood is grim. The officers are ready to court-martial the cowboy. They prepare the paperwork to strip his wings. He disobeyed a direct order. He broke formation. He endangered the flight. Then, they develop the gun camera footage. The room goes dark. The projector whirs to life. On the grainy black and white screen, the officers see the impossible. They see the dive. They see the speed. And they see the absolute destruction of the German fighter. It wasn't luck. It was surgical. The major, the man who called Hofer a clown, stares at the screen. The smoke from his cigarette rises straight up, undisturbed, because he has forgotten to breathe. The footage ends. The lights come on. Nobody speaks. The textbook says what Hofer did was suicide. The footage says it was a masterpiece. In that moment, the mockery dies. The sneers vanish. They realize they aren't dealing with an undisciplined child. They are holding a leash to a monster. And for the first time, they wonder what would happen if they let him off the leash completely. The infection started in the officer's mess. It wasn't spoken aloud that would be mutiny. It was whispered over lukewarm coffee and stale cigarettes. The rookies stopped looking at the rulebook. They started looking at Hofer. They saw the score on the chalkboard. 15 kills. They saw the screwball ace walking his dog, alive and untouched, while the good soldiers were being scraped off the runway. Slowly, the discipline cracked. A wingman here, a flight leader there. They started loosening the formation. They started diving. They started hunting. The Hofer virus was spreading. The American 8th Air Force was evolving from a herd of cattle into a pack of wolves, but the predator never stays at the top of the food chain forever. The prey adapts. The Luftwaffe isn't stupid. They realized that the Americans were getting aggressive. They stopped taking the bait. They stopped climbing to meet the challenge. The German sky became a ghost town. For a normal pilot, an empty sky is a relief. For Hofer, it is torture. His engine hums with wasted potential. Where are they? He looks down. Through the breaks in the clouds, he sees them. Parked, camouflaged, hiding on the airfields. If they won't come up to fight, he will go down to execute. This is the evolution of the madness. Dogfighting at 20,000 feet is dangerous, but attacking an enemy airfield? That is suicide. That is flying directly into the mouth of 1,000 anti-aircraft guns. Hofer doesn't care. He pushes the stick forward. He isn't just breaking formation now. He is rewriting the laws of survival. He drops to 50 feet. He is flying so low he has to pull up to miss the hangars. The world outside becomes a blur of concrete and tracers. The ground fire is a solid wall of lead. If I blink, I hit a tree. If I flinch, the flak tears me apart. Keep the hand steady. Keep the trigger down. He strafes the parked planes. He turns expensive German engineering into burning scrap metal before the pilots can even buckle their seatbelts. He isn't just winning dogfights anymore. He is erasing the enemy's ability to fly. But every time he dives into that hellfire, the odds of survival drop to 0. The Germans aren't just scared anymore. They are waiting. And they are loading the big guns. Ralph Hofer didn't become a legend because he was the best student. He became a legend because he was the best improviser. He looked at a rigid system that was getting his friends killed, and he found a back door. He proved that sometimes the wrong way is actually the only way to stay alive. We have all faced moments like that, maybe not at 400 miles per hour in a P-51 Mustang dodging anti-aircraft fire, but in our own daily battles. So, here is my question for you. Have you ever used a stupid trick, a hack, or an unorthodox method that everyone said wouldn't work, but it actually saved the day? Maybe it was a shortcut at work that your boss hated, or a quick fix that defied the manual. I want to hear your Ralph Hofer moment. Pause the video right now and tell me your story in the comments below. The best solutions often come from the rebels. Let's see yours. The 2nd of July, 1944. High noon over Yugoslavia. The cockpit of the borrowed P-51 Mustang is an oven. The heat is suffocating. The smell of high-octane fuel and sweat is thick enough to taste. Ralph Hofer looks down. Below him lies Mostar Sud, a heavily defended German airfield. It is a fortress of anti-aircraft guns. A death trap. The standard operating procedure is clear. You are low on fuel. You are alone. Go home. But Hofer doesn't see a trap. He sees targets. He pushes the stick forward. The engine screams as it hits maximum RPM. The altimeter unwinds like a manic clock. 5,000 feet. 2,000 feet. 500 feet. He levels out at 20 feet above the ground. He is flying so low the propeller is kicking up dust. The speed indicator vibrates at 400 miles per hour. At this speed, the world is just a blur of green and brown. There is no room for error. No room for hesitation. If I pull up, I'm a target. If I stay low, I'm a ghost. Target 1. A parked Heinkel bomber. Hofer squeezes the trigger. 6. 50 caliber machine guns roar. The bomber explodes into a fireball. Kill, number 28. He doesn't blink. He kicks the rudder. Target 2. Another fighter on the tarmac. He walks the tracers right into the fuel tank. Kill number 29. The G-force crushes him into the seat as he yanks the plane around. His vision greys out. His heart is hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. But now, the element of surprise is gone. The German ground crews are awake. The air fills with black puffs of flak. It sounds like gravel being thrown against a tin roof. Clack, clack, clack. Shrapnel tears through the aluminum skin of the Mustang. Hofer ignores it. He sees one more. Target 3. He lines up. The tracers fly. The third plane dissolves into scrap metal. Kill number 30. In less than 60 seconds, he has done what entire squadrons fail to do in a month. He has decimated the enemy on their own doorstep, but the price is coming due. A loud crack. The plane shudders violently. Oil splatters across the windshield, blinding him. The cockpit fills with smoke, acrid, choking smoke. The engine temperature gauge spikes to the red line. Oil pressure, 0. He is losing power. He is too low to bail out. He is too fast to land. Through the oil-smeared glass, he sees it. The gun emplacement. The source of the flak. The machine that is killing his bird. He has a split second to make the final choice. He could try to crash land in the field, surrender, and spend the war in a POW camp. That is the logical choice. That is the safe choice. But Ralph Hofer didn't become a legend by playing it safe. He doesn't turn away. He grips the stick with white knuckles. He aims the dying Mustang directly at the gun battery. He turns his plane into one final 400-mile-per-hour bullet. The impact shakes the earth. Silence returns to Mostar Sud. Back at headquarters, the report comes in. It isn't a reprimand this time. It is a eulogy. The officers who wanted to ban him, the commanders who called him undisciplined, they look at the numbers. 30 kills. Countless lives saved because he cleared the skies. They finally admit the truth. The stupid farm boy didn't just break the rules. He rewrote them in fire and blood. The smoke over Mostar Sud doesn't clear for hours. It hangs heavy, black, and oily against the stark blue of the Yugoslavian sky. The silence that follows the crash is violent. It isn't peaceful. It rings in your ears like a tinnitus scream. Down in the wreckage of the P-51, there is no Hollywood glory. There is no final, patriotic salute. There is just twisted aluminum, sizzling heat, and the overwhelming stench of roasted rubber, high-octane fuel, and burnt flesh. German soldiers approach the crash site cautiously. Their jackboots crunch on the dry, hard earth. Crunch, crunch, crunch. They have their rifles raised. They expect to find a monster, an American ace, a disciplined killing machine. Instead, they pull a body from the cockpit wreckage, wearing a bright blue shirt. They frown. They talk in low, confused German. What is this? It's a football jersey. Number 78. It makes no sense to them. Is this a uniform? Is it a joke? They don't know. They are looking at one of the deadliest predators the sky has ever seen. They just see a boy. A broken boy with long hair, dead in a foreign field, thousands of miles from the farm in Missouri. Meanwhile, back at RAF Debden, the sun is setting. The air turns cold and damp. The sound of engines dies down. The other Mustangs are taxiing in. The propellers wind down with a dying, mechanical whine. Whir, clank. Duke, the Alsatian dog, stands by the hardstand. His ears are pricked forward. He is rigid. He knows the sound of Hofer's engine. He knows the specific rhythm of Ralph's landing. He waits for the canopy to slide back. He waits for the whistle. He waits. A mechanic walks over. He smells of grease and tobacco. He looks at the dog, then looks at the empty sky. He shakes his head. He doesn't say a word. He just walks away. Duke lets out a sound, not a bark, a low, guttural whine that vibrates in his chest. It is the sound of a creature realizing he has been left behind. He paces the tarmac, back and forth, waiting for a master who has become nothing but smoke. The war machine moves on without a pause. It is a grinder that does not stop for grief. The generals in London look at the data. They look at the kill counts. They realize something uncomfortable. Hofer's suicidal tactics, the low-level strafing, the aggression, the refusal to disengage it, worked. It destroyed the Luftwaffe on the ground. It broke the German air power. So, they take the tactic. They write it into the training manuals. They teach it to the new recruits in flight school. They call it air superiority strategy, but they sanitize it. They remove the madness. They remove the dog in the cockpit. They remove the football jersey. They want the results, but they don't want the rebel. In the official reports, the word undisciplined appears again and again next to Ralph Hofer's name. Even in death, the system cannot forgive him for being right. They pin the distinguished flying cross on a ghost, but they shake their heads at his methods. Hofer isn't brought home to a hero's welcome. There is no ticker-tape parade in New York City. There are no cheering crowds throwing flowers, no girls kissing him in Times Square. He is buried in a mass grave, anonymous. Just bones mixed with the earth of a country he couldn't even point to on a map. Years later, they finally move him. They bring him home to the Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery in Street Louis. Section 82, Grave 15. You go there today, and you see it. Just a white stone, identical to the thousands of others, perfectly aligned, perfectly spaced. The irony is crushing. In life, Ralph Hofer refused to stay in formation. He refused to be just another number in a line. He broke every rule to keep his freedom, but in death, the system finally forced him back into formation. The useless farm boy, the clown with the dog, the pilot who flew like a demon, was finally tamed by the only thing that could stop him, death itself. And that blue football jersey? The symbol of his rebellion. It rotted away in the mud of Yugoslavia, leaving nothing behind but the legend. The history books are filled with the names of generals, men who sat in safe, warm rooms, moving coloured pins on a map, deciding who lived and who died from a distance. They got the medals, they got the statues, they got the glory. But Ralph "Kid" Hofer didn't fight for a statue. While the brass was polishing their buttons, Hofer was down in the mud, breaking every rule they wrote, just to make sure the guy flying next to him lived to see another sunrise. The generals won the war on paper, but Hofer won the right for his friends to go home. His story forces us to confront a hard truth. The system is designed for order, not for survival. The military academy taught pilots how to fly in a straight line. The farm in Missouri taught Hofer how to survive a brawl. When the sky became chaotic, the textbook became a suicide note. It took a boxer, a useless farm boy with a dog on his lap, to show the experts that sometimes the smartest move is to do the stupid thing. That instinct beats dogma, that street smarts beat book smarts, and that the outlier isn't a liability, he is the cure. History is written by the victors, but it is preserved by you. Ralph Hofer doesn't have a blockbuster movie. He doesn't have a monument in the Capitol. All he has left is this story, and stories die when they stop being told. The algorithm is a machine. It doesn't know courage. It doesn't know sacrifice. It only knows data. It will bury this story under a mountain of dance trends and cat videos unless you give it a signal. If you believe the world needs to remember the rebels, the outcasts, and the ones who dare to break formation, then leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Don't do it for me. Do it to force the system to remember the name it tried to erase. Let's make sure the kid never flies alone again. In the quiet of Jefferson Barracks, under a simple white stone, the engine finally stops. The roar of the P-51 is gone. The laughter on the radio is silent. Duke is long gone. The blue football jersey has turned to dust. But the spirit of the screwball ace remains. It whispers to every one of us who feels trapped in a formation we didn't choose. It tells us that sometimes the greatest risk isn't dying, it's living by someone else's rules. Whatever you do, don't play it safe.